I grew up in a really lovely, loving family, and we went to a Catholic church every week. And so for me, I believed there was a God. I believed he was real, but he was just up in the sky and distant and removed. Really, he wasn't close and personal. I remember when I was a child and a teenager, I had this constant feeling of guilt, and I just hated myself. And I believed that if anyone knew me, that they'd hate me, that I was just horrible. And so that drove me into perfectionism in every area of my life, dancing, schoolwork, everything. And really what that was just me trying to earn acceptance. Even though I was accepted by my parents, they loved me, but I just had this wanting to cover myself up, hide myself, make myself acceptable. As a child, I was very skinny, and but as I grew up, as I went into teenage years, I started to fill out naturally, like you do. And for me, I just felt dirty. I felt exposed, and I hated it. I felt like everyone could see how awful I was, and so then I started making myself sick, and that started to spiral out of control until eventually I wasn't eating at all. And in November 1997, I was diagnosed with anorexia. So I spent the next 2 years in and out of hospital, and I would put on weight, I'd go home, I'd lose it again. And it was just a horrible time. It was stressful for my family. And for me, it was just awful. The hospital experience wasn't great. It was degrading having a nurse follow you to the toilet, watch you have a shower, tell you what you're allowed to eat, what you're not allowed to eat, what medications you must take or mustn't take, when you're allowed home, when you're not allowed home. It was really tough. I'd lost all my friends. I had no one, and life just felt completely bleak. And so I reached a point where I just felt like I couldn't bear it anymore, and I just wanted to kill myself. I just wanted it all to stop. I really wanted to die. So at that point, because I was feeling so desperate, I thought, well, I may as well talk to my dad about it, because there's nothing else I can do. And it wasn't really so much the words my dad said. He just said to me that God loved me, and all I needed to do was to rest in God's love. And I'd heard those words before, but for some reason at that point, they became real. I think God just broke some of the lies that I was believing, and made those words true. God was real, God loved me. It was a complete revelation. And so I went from feeling utter despair to feeling joy, and I woke up the next day, instead of wanting to kill myself, just feeling so happy, so full of love and joy. It was just incredible. It was a miraculous turnaround. I really understood that my appearance didn't define who I was, that being skinny wasn't my identity. And God showed that to me, through his word. And he told me, I'm his masterpiece. I'm the apple of his eye. I'm so loved. So it doesn't matter what struggles I go through or what life throws at me. That's who I am. And it doesn't depend on what I look like. When I look back on who I was then compared to who I am now, it's just completely amazing. And it can only be God. There was no way that I could get out of that mess, that I could come out of that darkness. God did it all. He did an absolute miracle in my life.